The Senate hearing room is electric. The camera hovers above the tension-filled space, scanning over the audience, divided, whispering in anticipation. Senator John Cornyn stands at the podium, leaning slightly forward, his posture oozing arrogance. His voice is smooth, calculated, designed to dismiss. Cornyn. Smug, condescending. I understand the legal strategy, Representative Crockett. But to put it simply, it's a bit, how should I say, unrealistic. This isn't a courtroom drama, it's the Senate. A chuckle ripples through the room, some members nodding in agreement. Cornyn, basking in the applause, lets the moment sink in, his smirk widening. He plays to the crowd. His words are carefully chosen, designed to undermine, to belittle. The camera cuts to Crockett. She's calm, poised, yet her eyes burn with intensity. She's heard this before. She's been underestimated before. But today, she won't let it slide. Cornyn. Leaning in, as if delivering a final blow. Let's be honest here. Your plan is, well, it's what we call, fantasy politics. The smirk that lingers on his face is almost palpable. The air crackles with a sickly kind of certainty. He's made his point. He's won. Or so he thinks. The room waits, hanging on his every word. But Crockett rises slowly, not with anger, but with an unshakable calm. Her voice cuts through the air like a scalpel, precise and deliberate. Crockett. Steady, unwavering. I'm sorry, Senator, but that's where you're wrong. The room falls silent. Cornyn freezes for a moment, caught off guard. This isn't the deflection he expected. This isn't the submission he was counting on. Crockett doesn't flinch. Her eyes lock with his, and in that instant, it's clear, this moment isn't just about legal strategies or political posturing. This is about dignity. The energy shifts. Everyone leans forward, sensing the impending shift. Crockett. Quietly, but with authority. Let me show you why. The camera lingers on Cornyn. His smirk falters, just for a fraction of a second. His confidence wavers. But the real shock is coming. The silence in the room grows heavier. The world is waiting for the next move. And then, it happens. The room, still buzzing from Crockett's sharp retort, begins to fade into the background. The lights dim, the sharp edges of the Senate hearing room blurring into a far-reaching shot of Washington, D.C. The Capitol stands in the distance, silent but ever watchful. The past begins to unfold. Flashback. The scene shifts. Crockett's rise is not one of privilege. It's the grind of overcoming adversity, of being the only voice in the room when it feels like everyone else is against you. We see her as a young attorney, poring over case files late into the night, her determination etched across her face. She's always had the fight in her. Even in the early days, when no one gave her a second look. A quick montage. A young Crockett being ignored by older, more established colleagues in a law firm. She stands, finally speaking up in a meeting, her voice steady but carrying authority. An internship at a civil rights organization, her eyes lighting up as she walks into courtrooms, defending those who couldn't defend themselves. Her first run for office, a campaign fueled by nothing but raw passion and a belief in something bigger than herself. She was a woman of conviction in a world that didn't always appreciate it. But she kept pushing, slowly, steadily. Each challenge only made her stronger. She didn't just want change, she was determined to be the change. Back to the present. The camera cuts back to the Senate hearing. Crockett stands tall, unwavering. Her face tells a story of countless battles fought and won. Her political ideology, rooted in justice, inclusivity, and truth, has always put her at odds with the entrenched establishment figures who dominate Washington. Figures like John Cornyn. Cornyn, older and more seasoned, is a reflection of a system that has clung to power through silence and dismissal. He represents the establishment. The same political machinery that's ignored the voices of marginalized communities, the ones who are demanding a seat at the table now. His record is long and filled with dismissals of younger, diverse voices like Crockett, dismissals of the people's demands for change. He's always been the protector of the status quo, relying on his age and experience to silence those who threaten his way of doing things. His speeches in the Senate, his smirks in committee rooms, they've all been part of the same game. The game where he holds the cards, and those who challenge him are, in his eyes, simply out of their league. But Crockett isn't just another challenger. We cut to Cornyn's earlier speeches, laced with condescension. The way he's dismissed younger representatives as idealistic or inexperienced. The way he's spoken of women and people of color as if their voices had no place in the political arena. He's the quintessential old guard, the kind that has ruled for far too long without understanding the needs of a changing nation. But Crockett, standing before him now, represents a new wave. A shift. A break from the mold. The stakes of this moment are about more than just political points. This isn't just another day in Washington. This is the future of America being shaped right before their eyes. A clash between two ideologies, two generations, and two visions for what America should be. The crowd may be silent for now, but the echoes of this confrontation will ripple far beyond the Senate chambers. It will be a moment that defines a new era. It will be a moment that demands change. The camera tightens on Crockett's face, the weight of history hanging in the balance. Her eyes burn with the resolve of someone who knows exactly what's at stake. This isn't just about winning a debate. This is about redefining the system. The room is about to witness something far greater than political theater. And the stakes couldn't be higher. John Cornyn has been a fixture in Washington for decades, a man whose name is synonymous with the establishment. A man who has survived, and thrived, by playing the same tired game of power. His rise to prominence wasn't built on fresh ideas or bold innovations, it was built on alliances with the powerful, whispers behind closed doors, and a calculated disregard for anyone who didn't fit his mold. Cornyn's political career began in Texas, a state where he learned early on that being the loudest voice in the room often meant being the most heard. He quickly found his rhythm, a man of privilege with a taste for the spotlight. He was groomed by the Republican establishment, nurtured by party elites who saw him as the perfect candidate to carry their torch, unquestioning, obedient, and ready to toe the party line without hesitation. Cornyn quickly became the embodiment of what many refer to as old-school politics, where power is kept within the hands of the few, where loyalty is rewarded, and where anything that challenges the status quo is swept aside. But it wasn't just his political prowess that won him favor. Cornyn mastered the art of condescension, knowing exactly how to belittle those who posed any threat to his control. His sharp, dismissive tone became a trademark, a tool he wielded against those who were brave enough to stand up for something different. He mocked the voices of change, especially those from marginalized communities, believing that their time had not yet come. Their ideas were impractical, their dreams naive. We see a flash of his early years in the Senate, his cold, dismissive stare as he debates younger, eager senators with ideals that don't quite fit the mold. There's a pattern here. Over the years, Cornyn has made a habit of treating anyone who challenges him with a mix of condescension and disdain. His arrogance isn't just about power, it's about control. It's about ensuring that voices like his own are the ones that dominate the conversation, that those who question him are silenced before they can speak. One particular moment stands out in his long history of belittling others. A few years back, during a heated debate on immigration reform, Cornyn stood at the Senate floor, mocking the younger, more progressive voices that had recently come into power. They talk about justice, he scoffed, but they don't understand the consequences of their actions. They want to turn this country into something unrecognizable. His words were laced with venom, aimed directly at those who sought a more inclusive, compassionate vision for America. The camera cuts to archival footage, Cornyn, smirking as he dismisses the impassioned pleas of immigrants' rights activists. He rolls his eyes when a younger representative stands, speaking passionately about the need for reform. Idealism, Cornyn mutters under his breath, has no place in the real world. This wasn't a one-time incident. Cornyn's arrogance has become so ingrained in his character that it's almost second nature to him. He's comfortable in his skin, fully aware that he holds the power to dictate the narrative. His political maneuvering is marked by a cold calculation that has kept him in the Senate year after year. The same old tricks, playing to his base, fueling division, and never stepping out of the comfort of his own self-assurance. But what's most dangerous about Cornyn isn't just his dismissive attitude, it's his belief that he's untouchable. He's built a fortress of political alliances, a network of people who owe him favors, and he relies on that power to ensure that no one dares challenge him. His arrogance blinds him to the rising tide of change, the shift that's slowly but surely sweeping through Washington, carried by a new generation of leaders who are unwilling to back down. The camera shifts back to the present, Cornyn, still standing in front of the Senate committee, his voice dripping with the same condescension. His remarks about Crockett's legal strategy are filled with mockery, a final blow aimed at silencing her before she can even begin to speak. He assumes she's just another rookie, someone who doesn't understand the game. He doesn't see the fire in her eyes. He doesn't see what's coming for him. But Cornyn's overconfidence is his greatest weakness. For all his power, for all his years of holding court, he is blind to the changing landscape of American politics. He is the last of a dying breed, the embodiment of everything that people like Crockett have spent their lives fighting against. And as he stands there, arrogantly dismissing her, he's playing right into her hands. The camera lingers on Cornyn's face, a man who thinks he's invincible, but whose every word, every dismissive gesture, is digging his own political grave. He's comfortable in his world, but that world is about to change. Crockett's rise is a reminder that no one, not even the most entrenched politicians, is safe from the tide of change. And what's about to happen next, in that Senate chamber, will be the catalyst for a new kind of politics, a politics that Cornyn never saw coming. Cornyn's arrogance has always been his armor. But armor has a way of cracking when it's least expected. Jasmine Crockett wasn't born into a political dynasty. She wasn't handed her seat at the table or born with a silver spoon in her mouth. She was born with grit. The kind of raw determination that only comes from knowing that you have to fight for every inch, every breath, and every moment of recognition in a world that never quite sees you coming. Her story begins in Dallas, Texas, an underdog tale that no one would have predicted. Raised in a neighborhood where opportunities were few and hope often felt even more scarce, Crockett knew from an early age that if she was going to get anywhere, she was going to have to outwork everyone. And she did. As a young woman, Crockett was a fierce advocate for justice long before she ever set foot in a courtroom. She understood the power of words, of being able to stand up and demand what was right, even when it seemed like no one was listening. She would argue with her classmates in high school, challenging everything from unjust grading to social issues that seemed to go unnoticed. The world around her never felt quite fair, and she vowed that she would be a force to change that. When she enrolled in college, she already knew her path. Law was more than just a career, it was her weapon, her means of fighting back against a system that often favored the powerful and silenced the vulnerable. Law school was grueling. It demanded everything from her, but it also gave her the tools she needed to make a difference. Her professors were impressed with her clarity of thought and her unwavering commitment to truth. She wasn't just smart, she was laser-focused, with a clear sense of justice that couldn't be shaken. There were times when Crockett struggled. She faced opposition from both sides, those who doubted her because she was a woman, and those who doubted her because of the color of her skin. But she didn't back down. Every rejection, every challenge, only fueled her resolve. She understood what it meant to be underestimated, and she carried that chip on her shoulder, turning it into the driving force behind her rise. After graduating, she went to work for a civil rights firm, defending people who had been wronged by a system that wasn't designed to protect them. She worked on cases involving police brutality, voter suppression, and housing discrimination. With each case, her reputation grew. It wasn't just that she won, though she did, more often than not, it was the way she approached her cases. Crockett didn't rely on emotion or grand speeches, she relied on the facts. The evidence. The law. She built her career on being methodical, meticulous, and unyielding. She didn't fight with anger, she fought with precision. When others were swayed by the politics of the moment, Crockett stayed grounded in the facts, in the rule of law. Her approach was simple: if you had the facts on your side, if you knew your stuff, no one could take you down. It wasn't about being flashy. It wasn't about playing the game. It was about playing it straight, and winning because you were better, smarter, and more committed. But it wasn't enough to stay in the courtroom. Crockett saw that the real change needed to happen outside the walls of the legal system, politically. She knew that to change the laws, to make the system truly just, she had to enter the very arena where the system was built. So, she ran for office. Her first campaign was not the easy road. She faced enormous obstacles: moneyed opponents with deep pockets, party elites who didn't believe in her, and voters who questioned whether she had what it took to go toe-to-toe with the seasoned politicians who had dominated for years. But Crockett wasn't deterred. She didn't have the backroom deals, the well-funded PACs, or the influential connections that many of her opponents had. What she had was her voice, her work ethic, and her unshakable belief in justice. She campaigned the old-fashioned way, by talking to people, listening to their concerns, and proving that she understood their struggles. She spoke out against the injustices she had witnessed in her legal career, and she connected with voters who felt like their voices had been silenced for too long. Crockett wasn't interested in playing the same political game as her opponents. She was interested in changing the game altogether. When she won her seat in the Texas House of Representatives, it wasn't just a victory for her, it was a victory for anyone who had ever been told they didn't belong in politics. For the people who had been ignored, marginalized, or cast aside by the political establishment. Crockett wasn't just a new face in politics, she was a force to be reckoned with. Her first days in office weren't easy. She faced resistance from both parties. The establishment didn't know what to make of her. But Crockett was unfazed. She knew how to play hardball. She knew how to navigate a system that was designed to keep people like her out. She understood that power wasn't just about having a seat at the table, it was about making your voice heard, and making sure that the table was big enough for everyone. Her rise wasn't just about politics. It was about the values she carried with her, values rooted in fairness, truth, and the belief that everyone deserves an equal shot. Crockett wasn't interested in being another politician. She was interested in being a leader who would stand up for the people who were forgotten, for the people who were ignored. And as she ascended to higher offices, her resolve only strengthened. In Washington, she made a name for herself quickly. She wasn't the type to back down or get bogged down in partisan games. She fought for what was right, even when it meant standing alone. But it wasn't just her legal prowess that made her a force. Crockett's ability to empathize with people from all walks of life gave her an edge that no one expected. She understood what it meant to be marginalized, and she understood the importance of using her platform to elevate those who had been left behind. Now, as she faces off against Cornyn, everything she's worked for, everything she's fought for, has led to this moment. She's not just another politician facing off with an establishment figure. She's a product of perseverance, of principles that can't be shaken by power or arrogance. Her calm demeanor hides a fire that no one can extinguish. This moment in the Senate isn't just about a legal strategy. It's about everything Crockett represents: justice, truth, and the unwavering belief that the future belongs to those who fight for it. And the stakes? They couldn't be higher. The room is thick with anticipation. The tension is palpable, almost as if the very air itself is holding its breath, waiting for the next move. Cornyn leans back into his chair, the familiar smugness in his posture, watching Crockett with an expression that says, "You don't belong here." He knows his power, and he's ready to use it. Cornyn. Leaning forward, voice dripping with sarcasm. Representative Crockett, while I admire your enthusiasm, let's get something straight. Legal strategy isn't about passion. It's about practical solutions. It's about understanding the fine details, the nuances. Something your plan seems to lack. The room murmurs. Some senators exchange knowing glances, nodding as if to agree with Cornyn's words. But there's something different this time. Crockett doesn't flinch. She doesn't bite. She's calm, so calm, it almost seems like she's reading from a script that only she can hear. And it's infuriating to Cornyn. Crockett. Without missing a beat, voice clear and measured. Senator, I'm not here to offer practical solutions based on old models of exclusion. I'm here to challenge the broken system, the very one you've been upholding for decades. The words hit like a jolt, but Cornyn doesn't budge. He's used to being the one who controls the conversation, who controls the narrative. Crockett is making him work for it, and it's frustrating him. His next move is predictable, the sharp, condescending insult. The one designed to make her question her place in this room. Cornyn. Leaning back, eyes narrowing. Isn't it cute when the rookies think they can change the game with a few speeches? But let's be honest, Representative, your proposal is little more than a pipe dream. Your reform doesn't even address the real issues. It's idealistic at best, dangerous at worst. A few chuckles ripple through the room. The audience, half silent, half on edge, waits for her to crumble under the weight of his decades of experience. They expect the cracks to show. They expect Crockett to fluster, to lose her calm. But Crockett doesn't flinch. She just lets his words hang in the air, her eyes unflinching, her shoulders straight, like she's not even hearing him. Her response is deliberate, slow, cutting. Crockett. With a quiet but piercing intensity. Senator, you may be comfortable in your insulated world of outdated policies and backroom deals, but it's a world that's long overdue for change. The American people aren't asking for more of the same. They're asking for leaders who can actually see the future, not just hold on to the past. The tension in the room shifts again. It's palpable, like a tightening coil. Cornyn looks almost taken aback. His smirk falters, but he quickly recovers, leaning forward with renewed energy, ready to strike again. Cornyn. Voice rising with mock indignation. Oh, I see. You think you've got the answer. You think that all of our problems can be solved with a single bold move, without understanding the consequences. Well, Representative, I'm afraid you're missing the point. The consequences of your solutions would devastate the very fabric of our country. He's laying it on thick now, each word heavy with his conviction that this is the final blow. He's waiting for the crowd to back him up, waiting for them to see the flaw in her argument. But again, Crockett doesn't flinch. She doesn't blink. Crockett. Still calm, voice unwavering. The fabric of this country is already fraying, Senator. The system you fought to protect. It's built on the backs of people who've been left behind. People who can no longer afford to wait for your brand of stability to trickle down to them. They're demanding more. And if you can't see that, you're part of the problem. The room holds its breath. The words hang in the air, the silence amplifying the weight of what she's just said. No one moves. The audience, both in the room and across the country, is watching. The tension is unbearable. Cornyn's eyes narrow, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. This isn't the easy fight he expected. He's been pushing, jabbing, trying to break her down, but it's like hitting a wall. His confidence starts to waver, just a fraction. But he refuses to show it. He presses on. Cornyn. Grinning, voice dripping with contempt. Are you really going to stand there and pretend like your brand of justice will solve everything, Crockett? You want to give people a false sense of hope. You want to feed them empty promises. It's dangerous. Crockett stands tall, her voice unwavering, the sharpest weapon in her arsenal. Crockett. Quiet, resolute. Dangerous, Senator. What's dangerous is allowing people like you to keep calling the shots, to keep perpetuating a system that leaves people in the dust. What's dangerous is ignoring the cries for help from those who've been forgotten. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? You're too busy playing politics. The camera shifts between their faces, Cornyn's now visibly flustered, his carefully cultivated persona cracking just a little bit. He's losing control. Crockett's calm, measured approach is throwing him off balance. He's used to dominating the conversation, but she's not playing by his rules. The room is electric now, every eye fixed on the two figures at the center of the storm. The clash isn't just ideological anymore. It's personal. And as the minutes tick by, it's clear, this debate is only going to get more intense. No one is backing down. Not Crockett. Not Cornyn. What happens next could change everything. The room is suffocating. The tension hangs in the air like an electric charge, each second building on the last. Cornyn, sweating just slightly, leans forward, his arrogance still hanging thick in the air. His last attack, his self-righteous tirade about Crockett's so-called dangerous idealism, still lingers in the room, waiting to be rebutted. He's confident that this time, he has her. Cornyn. With a mocking tone. Well, Representative, you've had your say, but the law, real law, the law that governs this country, doesn't work the way you think. You can't just wish away years of precedent. You can't fix everything with a feel-good solution. The words fall like stones, heavy and deliberate. His eyes are locked onto Crockett, waiting for her to crumble, to admit the weight of his experience. But instead, there's something in her gaze that stops him in his tracks, something that tells him this is far from over. Crockett doesn't even flinch. She doesn't respond right away. She stands there, almost as if she's considering his words carefully. The silence stretches on, dragging the audience deeper into the moment, like the calm before a storm. Then, she speaks, softly, deliberately, but with an unmistakable authority. Crockett. Slowly, with a subtle smile. Senator Cornyn, I've been listening to your arguments. And I've been considering your point, about the law, about precedent. And I think it's time we address that head-on. Her voice is steady, her tone cool. But the moment the words leave her mouth, the temperature in the room shifts. The senators shift in their seats, sensing what's coming. There's a murmur in the air, a growing curiosity. And Cornyn's smirk falters, ever so slightly. Crockett. Continuing, more measured. You see, Senator, the law has always been evolving. The very concept of precedent isn't static. In fact, the history of American law is defined by moments when precedent was overturned. Let's take, for example, Brown versus Board of Education. Before that case, the precedent was separate but equal. That was the law of the land. But it was wrong. It was a justification for racial segregation, an institution that oppressed millions of Americans. The court, in its wisdom, overturned that precedent because the moral and legal foundation had shifted. It was a moment when the law had to adapt to what was right. The room quiets further. Some senators lean forward, others glance at one another, unsure of what's happening. Cornyn's expression darkens, and a flicker of discomfort crosses his face. He's used to being the one who controls the room, who sets the terms of the debate, but Crockett is flipping the script, forcing him into territory he doesn't want to navigate. Crockett. Undeterred, voice growing slightly more confident. And if we're going to talk about precedent, let's look at another case, Roe versus Wade. For decades, Roe was the law, despite the growing push to overturn it. And when the Supreme Court took it up in 2022, they did what you seem to be suggesting should never happen, they overturned a decades-long precedent. And they did it because they believed that the legal landscape had changed, that society had changed. The senators are listening now. They are no longer thinking of this as just another political fight. They are witnessing a woman, a young, bold woman, tear down the walls of convention, armed only with facts, history, and an unshakable belief in justice. She is rewriting the rules, and Cornyn knows it. He can feel the shift in the room. His grasp on the narrative is slipping. Crockett. Finally, moving in for the closing blow. So, Senator, when you say that my ideas are too idealistic, or too dangerous, I have to ask, what are we really protecting? A system that has failed too many people for too long? Or are we protecting the status quo, the systems of power that you've spent your career upholding, systems that have been so entrenched in this country for centuries? The question hangs in the air like a final statement. The silence is deafening. Crockett has made her point. She's not just challenging Cornyn's logic, she's challenging the very foundation of his beliefs, his career, his power. For a moment, Cornyn says nothing. His face betrays a flicker of something, confusion, disbelief, maybe even a hint of fear. The smirk is gone, replaced by a taut jaw and a furrowed brow. He opens his mouth, but no words come out. The camera cuts to his face, lingering there, catching every subtle twitch of discomfort. Then, finally, he stammers. Cornyn. Taken aback, trying to regain composure. "Well, that's not the issue here, Representative. The issue is." But Crockett cuts him off, her voice as firm as steel. Crockett. Cutting him off, eyes locked on him. "The issue, Senator, is that the people are tired of being ignored. They're tired of being told that their voices don't matter, that the status quo is all we can expect. And that, Senator, is what I'm fighting to change." The room goes dead silent. No one moves. No one breathes. The impact of her words lands with the force of a freight train. Cornyn opens his mouth again, but this time, the words die before they leave his lips. He's speechless. Defeated. For the first time in this debate, he is the one scrambling for control. The camera lingers on his face, his lips move, but no sound comes out. He's trying to form a coherent response, but nothing lands. The audience in the room begins to stir. There's a ripple of recognition, of admiration. Senators exchange glances, some nodding, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Cornyn has been bested. And Crockett stands there, calm, unwavering, as the weight of the moment settles over everyone. Her words have landed with precision, with undeniable clarity, and the room knows it. In the audience, the murmurs begin. Phones are pulled out. Tweets are sent. The camera flashes. The world is watching, and what they've just seen is history in the making. Crockett doesn't need to gloat. She doesn't need to prove anything more. The mic has been dropped. The fight is over. And she has won. The scene in the Senate hearing room is electric, the kind of silence that feels almost oppressive. But as soon as the doors open, the wave of energy crashes out into the real world. Within moments, social media explodes. Phones light up across the country as a flood of reactions pour in. The confrontation between Crockett and Cornyn has gone viral. Cut to social media reactions. Twitter is ablaze. Hashtags like hashtag Crockett for the people, hashtag Cornyn fail, and hashtag Mic Drop Crockett begin trending almost immediately. The video of Cornyn's stammering defeat spreads like wildfire, with thousands of retweets, memes, and commentary flooding the platform. The internet has found its new hero, and it's not the establishment. One meme goes viral within minutes, a photo of Cornyn mid-stammer, his mouth half open, with the caption, "When your decades of power come to a screeching halt." Another features Crockett standing tall in front of a flustered Cornyn, with the text, "That moment when a new generation takes over." The internet has fallen in love with her. Pundits, commentators, and celebrities join the chorus, tweeting their support. Pundit 1, at Political Pulse. Crockett just dismantled Cornyn with facts and grace. This is the future of politics. Hashtag Crockett for the people. Pundit 2, at Real Talk Politico. Cornyn is looking more like a man who's about to retire in shame. His arrogance just backfired on him. Hashtag mic drop Crockett. Celebrity, at activist queen. There's no question anymore. At Jasmine Crockett is a force. Watch out, Washington. She's coming for the throne. Hashtag justice for all. Crockett's name is everywhere. Headlines blare from news sites. Jasmine Crockett shreds Cornyn's argument in historic Senate moment, reads one. Another, Cornyn left stammering in stunning debate lost to Representative Crockett. The clips of her mic drop moment are replayed on loop across every major news outlet, turning her into a household name in the span of hours. Cut 2, Newsroom reactions. The media coverage is relentless. At CNN, the anchor barely hides the excitement in his voice. CNN anchor. Well, folks, if you missed it earlier, Representative Jasmine Crockett just delivered what might be the most decisive blow to a sitting senator in recent memory. Her legal arguments, her poised delivery, and most importantly, her ability to keep Cornyn on the ropes, have turned this debate into a full-scale political moment. In the background, the viral clip of Cornyn fumbling his words plays again. The anchor's words are tinged with disbelief. It's not every day you see a senior senator reduced to stammering. The impact of Crockett's words has reverberated far beyond the walls of the Senate. Over at Fox News, the coverage is a bit more subdued, but the shock is still palpable. Fox News anchor. While some would argue that Representative Crockett's performance was impressive, there's no denying the weight of what we've just witnessed. It's rare to see such a moment unfold so publicly, and it's left many wondering what's next for Cornyn. Can his authority in the Senate survive this? The political elite, both Democrat and Republican, begin to weigh in. Former allies of Cornyn, who once saw him as the face of conservative power in Washington, are now expressing doubt. Senator X, at Senator X. I've known Cornyn for years, but that was a disgraceful display. Crockett has officially changed the game. Hashtag mic drop moment. Meanwhile, Cornyn's social media accounts are flooded with mockery. His usually polished profile has become the butt of countless jokes. One tweet from a prominent conservative pundit sums up the shift. Conservative pundit, at True Conservative. Cornyn was a titan of the Senate, until he faced someone who actually listens. The times, they are changing. Hashtag Crockett in charge. As the hours pass, the narrative grows clearer. This isn't just a political loss for Cornyn, it's a cultural shift. Crockett's victory represents more than just a legal argument or a political debate. It's the symbol of a new generation rising to challenge a system that has failed to represent the full breadth of America. She represents the power of the people, ordinary citizens who are tired of being ignored by the status quo. Crockett's legal victory becomes the rallying cry for those who have long felt disenfranchised by the system. Young activists across the country, particularly those from marginalized communities, see her as a beacon of hope. They see in her not just a politician, but a reflection of their own struggle, someone who is unafraid to fight back, to challenge the powers that be, and to stand up for what's right. Cut 2, Public reaction on the streets. A group of young activists watched the viral footage together, their phones glowing with the screen of Crockett standing firm, her arguments resonating clearly. Activist 1. Did you see that? She just owned him. That's how it's done. That's how we fight back. Activist 2. She's the future. No question. We need more like her. She's showing us how to take this country back. The message has already spread across every corner of the internet. This is the moment when the political establishment, led by figures like Cornyn, was shown just how out of touch they truly are. The political conversation has changed. Cut to, backlash and political consequences. The pressure on Cornyn begins to mount. He issues a brief, awkward statement later in the evening, trying to brush off the incident with a forced grin. Cornyn. I'm sure Representative Crockett meant well, but the Senate is a place for serious discourse, not showmanship. I'll continue fighting for the people of Texas and the values that matter. But his words ring hollow. The damage has been done. The image of him faltering on the Senate floor, left speechless and defeated, will follow him for years. His authority, once unquestioned, is now irrevocably shaken. Meanwhile, Crockett's name continues to rise. She's more than just a new star in the political firmament. She's become a symbol of what's possible when someone dares to challenge the system. Her victory is being heralded as the first step in a broader movement, one that could, just might, lead to a fundamental shift in the way politics is done in this country. As the media keeps the spotlight on her, Crockett's phone buzzes with new messages, requests for interviews, offers for endorsements, and congratulations from figures who now see her as the future of progressive politics. The backlash against Cornyn is real, and it's not just about his loss in that debate. It's about what his loss represents. The establishment has been shaken, and it's clear, the tides are turning. And Crockett? She's ready for what comes next. The camera fades in on Jasmine Crockett, seated comfortably in a quiet room, away from the chaos of the Senate. The weight of the day's event still lingers in her eyes, but her expression is calm, composed, grounded in the stillness that comes after a storm. The interview begins, and the first question comes quickly, almost predictably. Interviewer. Representative Crockett, the moment with Senator Cornyn has gone viral. Your words, your composure, it's made you a symbol for so many who feel their voices have been ignored. How does it feel? Crockett smiles slightly, but it's not a smile of victory, it's a smile of understanding. She's been here before, though not quite like this. This isn't about her, not really. It's about something far larger. Something that reaches beyond the walls of Washington, beyond the political gamesmanship. This moment, this shift, isn't about one person. It's about a movement. Crockett. Speaking slowly, thoughtfully. The truth is, I never thought of it as a moment. For me, it's just been another day in this fight. We've been fighting for so long, not just to have a seat at the table, but to have our voices heard. And for those of us who've been overlooked, mocked, and dismissed, we don't have the luxury of playing by the old rules. We can't afford to sit back and let people like Cornyn dictate what's possible. She pauses, her eyes focused, the weight of her words landing with an ease that comes from both experience and conviction. Crockett. What happened in that room wasn't about one debate. It wasn't even about me and Senator Cornyn. It was about the fact that, for too long, the voices of people like me, people like the ones I represent, have been told to sit down, to be quiet, to wait for our turn. And I'm done with that. We're all done with that. The interviewer nods, sensing the sincerity in her voice, the fire that still burns beneath the surface. Interviewer. But don't you think it's easy to get caught up in the emotion of the moment? To be reactive, rather than thoughtful? Crockett leans forward slightly, her gaze unwavering. Crockett. Emotion is important. But what's more important is staying grounded in what's right. In truth. In dignity. I didn't go into that room with anger in my heart. I went in with facts. With evidence. With a belief that the system, as it stands, is broken. And sometimes, that's all it takes, to stand firm and call out the truth when everyone else is too afraid to. The interviewer seems taken aback by the simplicity, the strength of her answer. There's no bitterness in Crockett's tone, no anger at the years of belittlement or derision. Instead, there's an unshakable calm, a confidence that has been tempered by years of pushing against the grain. Interviewer. Senator Cornyn was the embodiment of the old guard, the political establishment. He's been in power for years. What do you think this moment represents for the future of politics? Crockett's eyes light up slightly, her hands folding on the table in front of her. Crockett. This moment is just the beginning. It represents a shift, a break from the past. The old guard, the ones who've relied on their age, their experience, their titles to shield them from scrutiny, they're starting to see that they can't keep ignoring the people. That's what the truth always does. It has a way of cutting through the noise, of shattering the illusion that power can't be challenged. She leans back, her gaze steady. Crockett. We are witnessing a shift in this country. The people are demanding change, not the kind of change that promises more of the same, but real, substantive change. Change that means justice, equality, and opportunity for all. The kind of change that doesn't just protect the powerful, but lifts up everyone else. The words hang in the air for a moment, and the interviewer nods, sensing that this isn't just a political statement. This is a declaration. It's the voice of a new generation that's ready to take on the old systems. The camera lingers on Crockett's face, her expression softening but still resolute, as if she's not just speaking to the interviewer but to the millions watching at home. Interviewer. You've become a symbol for many, a voice for the voiceless. How do you carry that weight? Crockett's smile is soft now, but it's also knowing. Crockett. The weight isn't mine to carry alone. I carry it for the people who've been waiting for someone to stand up, who've been waiting for someone to say, you matter. Your voice matters. And I'm here to fight for you. The weight is in our collective strength. In the belief that together, we can do better. There's a quiet moment of reflection. Crockett's words have the power to resonate, to linger. The interviewer, visibly moved, allows the silence to sit between them. The tension, the drama of the debate, seems to fall away, replaced by something deeper, something that feels, perhaps, like hope. Crockett. Dignity is the foundation of everything. When we stand up for what's right, when we remain true to ourselves and to the people who need us most, we win. And the best part? The old guard can mock us all they want. But the truth always wins in the end. It's a lesson they're learning the hard way. The camera zooms in slightly as Crockett's words land, one final, powerful thought. Crockett. This is just the beginning. I'm not here to just talk about change. I'm here to make it happen. The interviewer nods, and for a moment, the room feels like it holds its breath. The screen fades to black. The screen fades in from black, Crockett's powerful words still resonating in the air. The tension has settled, but the impact lingers. The battle may have been won, but the war for change is far from over. What happened in that Senate hearing room wasn't just a debate, it was a declaration. A declaration that the old guard no longer controls the conversation. That when truth, dignity, and justice are on your side, nothing can stand in your way. Jasmine Crockett stood up, not just for herself, but for every voice that's been silenced, every person ignored by the system. She proved that no matter how powerful the opponent, no matter how deep the roots of the establishment, the truth will always rise. The music swells, giving the moment a sense of finality. The images on screen shift to scenes of people marching, signing petitions, and speaking out, voices rising in unison. This is your fight too. The battle for dignity, for fairness, for equality, it's ours to win. But it starts with you. Don't let arrogance go unchallenged. Don't sit back and wait for change to come. Be the change. Speak out. Stand tall. And never back down. The screen cuts to a bold, simple call to action. Join the movement. Share this message. Stand with Jasmine. And subscribe for more stories that are rewriting the future of politics. Stay informed. Stay empowered. Because together, we are unstoppable. The video ends with the channel's logo, a call to subscribe, and a final reminder, the truth doesn't back down.